Good news, Rosalie. I've invited my family over for you. Make sure you play the perfect hostess at this fancy restaurant, won't you? Just to double check, are you good with money? You didn't have any savings, right? What are you talking about? What's mine is yours. That means this restaurant you run, it's mine too. Everything is on the house, obviously. That's absurd. My husband, Kyle, is really foolish. Thinking he's invited the family over to my restaurant, and now he's planning to dine and dash, something's off. Besides, he doesn't understand a thing. He's about to find himself in a world of trouble. Kyle, we can't just make everything free. But don't worry about the money. I know you don't have savings, and I knew you were going to invite the family today, so I billed someone else in advance and got the payment already. Don't lie to me. I didn't tell you anything about inviting the family. And none of the relatives mentioned being billed? Saying that, my husband pointed towards the relatives. His parents, his brother and his wife, and a few other family members were chatting with a nearby waitress. Watching this, he smirked and mocked them, while I struggled to hold back my laughter, twitching around the mouth. Today, I've been preparing for this day. I'll entertain them in the best way I can, as my husband wishes. While listening to him and smiling to myself, our in-laws came over. Hey, Rosalie, we're here to visit today. It's such a lovely place. Everyone's enjoying it. Both of them were gentle and always smiling warmly, a stark contrast to my husband. Dad, Mom, thanks for coming. Rosalie is pleased too. Today's on me, okay? Even though he planned to eat for free, he lied nonchalantly. Not just to his parents, but likely to his brother and other relatives as well. It's not the first or second time my husband has lied, but he's confident he'll never get caught. Because he's seen as the dutiful son by the relatives. Yeah, Rosalie's really been doing great. She took over the restaurant from her late parents and has been running it impressively. She struggled at first, but she managed to turn it around. She's my pride and joy. To deceive his parents, he purposely praised me. His pride and joy, right. He barely sees me as more than a maid. Hearing this boastful talk, the in-laws turned to me and nodded repeatedly. Since the beginning of our marriage, they've genuinely recognized my efforts. Their eyes were as kind as ever. Meanwhile, my husband changed his expression so only I could see. Keep your mouth shut, he seemed to say. Rosalie is working hard, and Kyle is doing well too. Things are smooth with Brown Trading, right? Your salary has been going up, hasn't it? Yeah, that's right. I'm respected at Brown Trading. So the boss has high hopes for me. I want to lead my team by actions and results, and I'm gonna keep up the good work. Yeah, that's our son all right. Spending $15,000 like that isn't something just anyone can do. At that moment, my husband's expression clouded slightly. Today, including my in-laws and brother-in-law's family, 15 relatives are dining with us. It's $1,000 per person, making it $15,000 total, but my husband is trying to get it all for free, so he was unaware of the amount. Realizing it was more expensive than he thought, he quickly composed himself to avoid his lie being exposed. I owe it to everyone here. It's the least I can do. I just got my bonus, so no worries at all. Leave it to me. Watching my husband puff up his chest, the in-laws chuckled softly. Glancing at the clock, it was 6 p.m., so I urged my husband and in-laws toward their reserved seats. The brother-in-law and the other relatives followed to their seats soon after. At the last moment, my husband turned back to me, showing a creepy grin. An hour later, I headed over to where my husband and the others were seated. They were in a banquet room, not concerned about the surroundings, having a great time with the relatives. Everyone, feel free to order more. It helps the restaurant's sales, and Rosalie will be thrilled, so don't hold back. With each word of thanks to Kyle, came an equal number of extra orders. Combined with the banquet course meals, the total had already exceeded $20,000. Everyone knew my husband was an elite at a big corporation with a high income, and no one doubted that today was his treat. While some relatives were hesitant, it seemed like my husband was almost forcing them to order. This was when I decided to approach my husband and make a fact clear loud enough for all relatives to hear. Since it's Kyle's treat, I had $60,000 transferred yesterday. So, everyone, please eat as much as you like without any reservations. The relatives buzzed with surprise. $60,000. Wow. Classic Kyle, were words of near admiration that flew around. While the relatives reacted like this, my husband had a bewildered look, clueless about what was going on. I didn't miss his expression and added a line to start my counterattack. Well, the $60,000 isn't for the food, it's for alimony, actually. At my words, a puzzled look appeared on the faces of the buzzing relatives. An uncle next to my husband involuntarily asked, "Alimony? Kyle, what's this about alimony?" "No, I don't know about any alimony. Sometimes Rosalie jokes around, so please don't mind her." "Come on, Rosalie, don't upset everyone with jokes like that." With that, my husband tried to play it off, but he was clearly the most troubled. His face was smiling, but his eyes were not. The way he looked at me was terrifying, but I didn't stop. "Kyle, you're the one making uncomfortable jokes here. I think it's time the family knew that, right?" With that, I handed a piece of paper and a bank book to my husband. As he examined them closely, his face turned pale. "The alimony is for cheating. Kyle has been unfaithful. He's not the person you all think he is. He can lie and deceive people without a second thought." Until moments ago, the relatives were having a blast, but they suddenly lost their words, and the banquet room was enveloped in an eerie atmosphere. The document I handed to my husband was the original alimony claim, and the bank book showed a record of a $60,000 transfer. Everyone was focused on my husband and me, and silence fell for a few seconds, but it was my husband who broke it. "How funny, Rosalie, that's quite something. It looks just like a real estate and a bank book. But really, this is going too far. There's no way I would cheat." It seemed like he had switched modes already, showing his usual confident demeanor. But that confidence quickly faded, and I couldn't help but smile. "What are you talking about, Kyle? You're the one who's gone too far. Not only cheating but trying to bully me into eating for free. Lying to all the relatives that it's your treat. Rosalie. That's too much of a joke. Correct yourself quickly. Everyone, don't take Rosalie's words to heart." Without needing to say, the relatives seemed unable to believe it outright, and no one spoke up. I didn't react to my husband's words either, just watching his actions closely. Gradually, my husband started to panic. That's when he tried to get his parents on his side. "Dad, Mom, tell her to stop these senseless jokes at a time like this." Yes. Everyone, calm down and listen to me. Rosalie isn't making any senseless jokes. She's just stating the facts. It's undeniable that Kyle has been unfaithful. And she's not threatening Rosalie. He's trying to get today's meal for free too. What are you two even saying? Are you taking what Rosalie said seriously? That's not funny at all. The only thing that's not funny is this situation. We've come here knowing everything, to confront you. Yes, I had already confessed everything to my in-laws. That my husband uses his outward kindness to play the dutiful son, while behind the scenes he's up to no good. Even while we were waiting for our reservation time, he tried to deceive his parents, but they already knew he was lying. Enough! I would never deceive everyone. You're ruining the good mood we had. Rosalie, what are you going to do about this? My disclosure, and even having the in-laws on my side, was completely unexpected for him. He visibly started to lose it. He stood up, looking like he might lunge at me any moment, glaring at me intensely. Come on, brother, calm down. Let's sit down and talk this over calmly. Nicholas, you believe me, right? Cutting through my husband's angry shouts and sharp gaze was his brother, my brother-in-law Nicholas. Nicholas, busy with his own job, was attending today with his wife Yasmin. I knew Nicholas and my husband had been close since before I started dating him, and he is as gentle and consistently smiling as the in-laws. However, Nicholas's next action would utterly defeat my husband. He pulled a thick envelope out of his bag and handed it to my husband, saying, "You believe me, right, brother?" "How can I believe you, when you've been cheating with my wife?" "Nicholas, what?" The thick envelope Nicholas had pulled out was a report on the infidelity investigation. It turns out my husband had been cheating with Nicholas's wife, Yasmin. Just before, my father-in-law had said, "We've come here knowing everything." And by we, he meant the brother-in-law's family too. And it turns out, I learned about my husband's infidelity thanks to Nicholas. Hesitantly, my husband checked the contents of the envelope, turning pale as a ghost. Inside were numerous photos of him cheating with Yasmin. Pictures of them dining at a fancy restaurant, looking into each other's eyes. There were photos of them being cozy in a car and others of them embracing and kissing in front of a hotel. There's no way he could just say they were just going out. It was indeed a decisive moment, a hellish scene. Is this a joke? Unbelievable. Kyle did this, were the whispers I heard. The relatives around us were in turmoil, and the banquet hall buzzed in a whole different way. For my husband, it couldn't have gotten any worse. He was completely flustered now. No. Wait. This investigation report is fake. The photos must be doctored. Because I haven't cheated. Yasmin, we didn't cheat, right? Right. The relatives' gazes turned icy, as my husband tried to enlist Yasmin's support in his last-ditch effort. Immediately after, Yasmin, now the center of attention, bowed deeply to the floor in full prostration. "Everyone! I am terribly sorry. I have had an affair with Kyle." It goes without saying that my husband was the most shaken he had been all day. He hadn't anticipated Yasmin fully admitting to the affair. He had been insisting the alimony bill and the bank book were fake and, thinking only of himself and taking me for granted, couldn't have imagined this. Yasmin's earnest apology captivated not only my husband but also all the relatives. While her forehead remained on the floor, she slowly began to speak. "It really was just a fling. Nicholas is a wonderful husband but, well, it lacked excitement, you might say. Just doing housework and waiting at home for Nicholas to return. I started to feel like my life would forever be the same and suddenly got bored. When I approached Kyle, he was happy to go along." Everyone listened in silence to Yasmin's voice mixed with regret and reflection, as she raised her head and revealed more truths. I tried to end it immediately knowing it was wrong. But Kyle got serious about it. He threatened to expose everything if I tried to break it off. I know it sounds like an excuse now, but I am truly sorry. My husband had threatened Yasmin to continue their relationship. The relatives could only stare in disbelief at such a lack of morals. Yasmin had initiated the affair. And though she was threatened, it's hard to completely sympathize with her, but she came here today to admit her mistakes and apologize, which is somewhat redeemable. However, my husband tried to escape by lying and making excuses. Unaware that he was just tightening the noose around his own neck, he really is a fool. Brother, it's all useless. Rosalie, and our parents know everything. I'm going to demand alimony from you, and you're going to pay. Nicholas, when did you realize? You even did an investigation. You must have been sure, right? Yes, I heard it from someone. I truly despise you, brother. Right, Rosalie? That's right. It wasn't just Yasmin, he had his hands on other women too. What, Rosalie, how much do you know? Just give me a break already. Too bad, Kyle. I know everything. And if anyone should be asking for mercy, it's us. I never thought you'd even make a move on an employee at the restaurant. After saying this, I called a woman to the banquet hall. This woman was the waitress who had been talking with the in-laws, Nicholas and Yasmin, and several other relatives while they waited for their reservation time. Turns out, While having an affair with Yasmin, my husband had also been making advances towards this waitress. She was also attending the same school with me back in student days. Before even consulting Rosalie, who is the restaurant owner, she came to me. Kyle had threatened to destroy your family if you spilled the beans to Rosalie. You're really horrible. Nicholas had taken the waitress's consultation seriously and began to monitor my husband. That's how he found out about the affair with Yasmin. After hearing about this from Nicholas, I consulted with the in-laws and decided to support the waitress, leading to this moment. The waitress trembled slightly as she looked at my husband. She clearly still frightened of him. When the relatives saw the waitress, they all stood up and surrounded my husband. Everyone had a furious look, so my husband couldn't help but deny everything. I don't know her. I don't know this woman. Rosalie, Nicholas. You're making things up without any evidence. No evidence, huh? Kyle, do you really think we came unprepared? It's all on camera, your stupid actions. Right there on the restaurant's security footage. Unbelievably, my husband had been hitting on the waitress when I wasn't around. It looked like he had timed it when the waitress was alone. The camera even caught him touching her disgustingly and trying to take her outside against her will. It's ridiculous that he didn't notice the security camera. He must have been too engrossed in his affairs. I've said it before, but we know everything, brother. All you can do now is admit your guilt and apologize, just like Yasmin did. Kyle, let me ask you something. Why would you deceive Rosalie to carry on with your affairs? From what we can see, Rosalie has been nothing but supportive. She's been managing the restaurant that she inherited from her parents and taking care of home as well. What did she ever do to you? Under the cold stares, my husband flinched at his father-in-law's question. I thought there was no valid excuse for infidelity, but if I had been unconsciously pushing him into a corner, I wanted to reflect on myself too. Awaiting his response, what he said next was shocking. I married Rosalie because I felt sorry for her. Before our marriage, she was struggling to turn the restaurant around. With both parents gone, I was the only one she could rely on. I couldn't live without that feeling of superiority. And then what? Rosalie managed to turn it around. The restaurant became popular, and suddenly, I found it boring. That's why I thought of dumping her. My husband was smirking, as if he had nothing to lose. Despite already knowing his true nature, a deep disgust welled up from within. It seemed he viewed everyone but himself as mere tools. The cold stares from the relatives quickly turned to pity. A feeling of superiority felt good? Got bored and decided to dump her? Kyle, do you realize what you're saying? You're successful in your big company because Rosalie supported you. Don't you have any gratitude? No, you're wrong. I succeeded because of my own skills. Besides, isn't it normal for a wife to support her husband? Does a mother serve a father expecting gratitude? No, right? Rosalie served me because she loved me. It's presumptuous to expect gratitude for that. Enough, Kyle. I find you repulsive. We are cutting ties with you, but we will watch you until you take responsibility. Be prepared. Fine, cut ties or whatever. I have a stable job. I can live on my own. In fact, it's a relief. Right, Rosalie? You can enjoy life more without me around. I'll pay whatever alimony or anything else, so don't worry. My husband laughed, seemingly without a care. Looking at him, I thought again. He doesn't understand anything, knows nothing at all. Really? You can pay alimony? Aren't you about to be sued by your company, Kyle? A lawsuit for damages isn't cheap, you know? What? The company's suing me? That's ridiculous. You were bragging today, weren't you? That you're respected at Brown Trading. That your boss has high expectations. That you lead your subordinates with actions and results. But it was all lies. In reality, you've been threatening your subordinates and embezzling company money. What? I would never do something like that. I rose through the ranks on my own merit. Don't talk nonsense when you know nothing. What you don't know, Kyle, is that all the subordinates you threatened have come forward. The company has been aware of the issue for a while. But you don't have to believe me. I'm just stating facts. It'll be interesting to see how far you fall. I explained to him in a calm tone, trying to make him understand, and the color drained from his face. If he really had no idea, he could have laughed it off. But the truth is, he was misbehaving at work too, so denying it was impossible. Seeing the realization dawn on him, he quickly turned pleading. Rosalie, you're right, I knew nothing. I only said those things because I wanted to leave. Please continue to support me. If we divorce now, Stop right there. Don't say anything more. The relatives are about to tear you apart, Kyle. It's too late for anything now, and it doesn't matter whether you knew or didn't know. No one will help you, and you'll get your wish to live alone. Oh, and by the way, make sure you pay for today's bill. It was your treat, wasn't it? The moment I said this, Kyle collapsed to his knees. No one reached out to help him. Today, after threatening me and deceiving the relatives to get a free meal, he finds himself unable to get off scot-free. Afterwards, I filed for divorce, and Kyle was sued by his company. Kyle ended up incurring a significant amount of debt. The reason Kyle had no savings, despite dealing with brown trading, was because he was footing the bill for entertainment expenses with the employees. However, this entertainment was merely a pretext. In reality, Kyle was just squandering money at nightclubs. Given that Kyle, who had a high-paying job, had no savings, it's clear he had been recklessly spending his money. This was entirely Kyle's own doing, so he should have dealt with it himself, but instead, he asked for help from his in-laws and Nicholas's family. Of course, no one was willing to help. Kyle had defiantly claimed he could live on his own and even laughed off being disowned, so it's no surprise. Yet, Kyle continued his futile attempts and kept sending messages to my smartphone incessantly. I was wrong. I shouldn't have cheated. I regret it, please help me. The messages clearly showed he was desperate, but it felt like just another act. Given his history of deceit and manipulation, it's hard to believe him. Still, I have not blocked Kyle's contact. I've left it unblocked so that I can receive his messages. I want to see what becomes of a person who has only thought of himself and demeaned others around him. It's uncertain what will happen to Kyle now that he has hit rock bottom. One thing I do know is that unless Kyle truly repents and changes himself, he will not be able to climb out of this pit. That much I am sure of. Rosalie, I am truly sorry for what my brother has done. It's irreparable. Nicholas apologized to me after divorcing Yasmin. The in-laws who came with him also deeply bowed their heads. I am a failure as a parent. I can't believe I didn't see my own son's true nature sooner. If only I had realized earlier, this wouldn't have happened. Kyle took advantage of your kindness, Rosalie, and did whatever he wanted. It was our responsibility to stop him. You all don't need to apologize. If anything, I am grateful. I had no one else to rely on, no parents or relatives, so thank you for always being on my side. From the beginning of our marriage, the in-laws and Nicholas had been my allies. That I was able to turn around the inherited restaurant was possible only with their support. They are genuinely kind and always smiling. They showed such fury on my behalf. That was incredibly comforting to me, who is utterly alone. I will never forget this warmth for as long as I live.